Alberto, thanks for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Um, as I mentioned on the call, and just to remind everybody who's listening, the purpose of this is to get more stories out in the world about leaders' travels from being individual contributors to leadership roles. And everybody has a different story. And part of the reason for doing this is that when I started leading teams, which 20 plus years ago, I wanted to hear more people's experience about what it was like, and I didn't find anything. Um, and now years later, I still don't find anything. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to scratch my own itch and get the stories out there. And I get to learn cool stuff along the way. So I will freely admit there's a significant portion of this that is um, my own self-interest in hearing how other people do stuff. So welcome. Um, this is totally organic. We just kind of go wherever the conversation goes. The thing that I'm curious about is to start with is how did you get started doing any kind of leadership? Um, did you do it as a kid? Were you like the guy that organized the ball games, or you know, like how did you get a job at McDonald's and they made the shift lead? Like, how did that work out?
Yeah, well, first of all, Bill, thank you very much. I really appreciate the invite to be here, and I'm really looking forward to share some good stories and good insights to the audience.
Awesome.
Um, so I actually mentioned this on I think it was on the first part of my book where I'm telling like a little bit more about my story. But yeah, I was that kind of guy. I grew up in south of Brazil, and as you know, in Brazil, soccer is a big thing, is the main sport. And I was the guy organizing the leagues. I was 10, 11 years old, and I would go door by door, knocking doors like, hey, you want to be part of this league? You have a team. And then I would go, on the gas station on the same street and try to get sponsorship. I would go like, back in the day, the blockbusters and like, hey, you would sponsor this. And I would actually organize the venue, organize the team, get the t-shirts, sponsors. And I was just a kid doing what I love at the time, which was playing soccer. Um, and because I wasn't a good player, I started playing as a goalie. And actually, I ended up being really good goalie. And I played goalie until adult life, and it was pretty fun. And I didn't know that I was doing a leadership job at the time. I was just leading with the passion for the craft of putting people together and playing. So years later, I realized that, oh, that was my first leadership role without knowing that I was being a leader. But that's how I started. That was the first of many. But that's when I started on my first role. And it was a lot of fun.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. And I think you just won the prize for the youngest so far of anybody who's mentioned like starting doing stuff like that. That's amazing. I'm super curious. What do you remember like kind of what role models or what inspiration or what did somebody say that got you to start doing that? Because I don't know a lot of 10-year-old
So,
girls.
um, are you connected with F1 racing these days,
A little bit,
or
yeah.
a little bit? Y'all. So back in the 90s, I did get inspired by a F1 driver, which was really big in Brazil, and nowadays is very famous. I mean, he was famous back in the day, but there's a guy called Ayrton Senna.
Yep, yep.
So for me, he's still like the best driver ever.
Yeah, he was
But
phenomenal.
he did have a lot of influence on people in my generation worldwide. And if you actually if you type in YouTube now and actually go Ayrton Senna and you get to know that guy and the kind of leader he was,
Hmm.
he will inspire you today. 30 years, 30 plus years after he died in 1994. So 30 plus years later, he's still inspiring people.
Nice.
And I think he was the one he that he said, like, you can do it. But how do you get started? You get started by doing it. How do you learn? You got to learn by doing it more.
Right, right.
And
Yep.
things like that, and he was someone that inspired many people around the world, that the difference between winning and losing, and that losing is not a problem unless you learn from it. If you think about this and you reflect for a moment, it applies to anyone in any role, uh, in today's world. Like, yeah, so I think he was like a role model, and I catch myself time to time actually going back to uh, some of like the interviews that he would give, or some of the talks, and because at the time I didn't speak English, but he was Brazilian, he would speak Portuguese, and that was like some of like the people that inspire me. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, I love hearing about old F1 drivers, and that's yeah, it's yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. Um okay, so fast forward a few years. How did you get into tech, and how did you start leading in tech?
Yeah. Um, I consider myself privileged in that regard, because my dad, he was electronic, like transistor resistors,
Mhm.
like he wasn't like an electronic engineer,
Ah, okay.
uh,
Nice.
putting boards together for what today we have in our phones, very easy, which is the caller ID. He was one of the pioneers of the caller ID in the late 70s,
Oh, wow.
and which was cutting edge technology at the time.
Sure. Yep.
Um, and I would see like he working on those boards, and on the physical aspect of it, and I got interested by that. And then there was the brain of like those things, which it was so funny. But the first version of a caller ID had a memory for 10 numbers, the
Yeah.
last 10 people that calls, which was a amazing technology, Bill. Amazing technology.
Right,
How can
right.
you actually
Exactly.
memorize? So as soon as the 11th number would call, that would erase the first one. um, uh, and uh, and then I got like interested about the programming part of it, which my dad didn't have the skill. He had the skill with the hardware, and then there was the memory, and it's like how that works. That led me to actually get more curious to like very initial days of programming for me, which was assembly, like very close to the machine,
Mhm. Yep.
um, and which led me to do computer science. So I got really passionate for programming in many different languages, for basic to Visual Basic to like a few languages in Microsoft, and then I went to open source with Java and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm. Mhm.
Python and PHP and so forth. So I did many. I consider myself like technology agnostic these days, but um, it was a long journey in the technology that made me a combination of understanding the technical aspect, even to today's day. I'm very close to. I say like it's like riding a bike.
Yeah. Yeah.
You learn the fundamentals of it. The bike will be different, but the principle is the same. Even
Yes.
with AI.
Right.
Well,
Right.
it's so that what made me out this journey, and to get into the technology that early, and I'm still very passionate. I'm passionate about technology to today's day, equally equally passionate about the people aspect of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
There were like moments of my career that I was a little bit leaning towards to be more technical, less people, I think today on the leadership role as a CTO, as an entrepreneur, uh, I'm leaning more to the people aspect of it, not losing much side of the technology. It's always it depends on the uh,
Right, right.
what's going on in the world.
So talk about the people side a bit. What are like how did you start thinking about the people? Um, how did the people become important versus the tech? Like how'd that transition happen?
Uh, it depends on. Let me. That's a very good question, Bill. But let me try to put like some context on it. Um, uh, if we go back to the 90s,
Hmm.
do you remember the yellow pages? Do you remember
Oh
that
yeah.
we would? Do you remember that we would actually go play on the streets with our friends and we would forget about time?
Yep, yep.
And then I remember like when there was the boom, the 2000 boom, which was the internet,
Right, right.
where I said I was at the time that I had to go to the library, spend hours and hours researching about a topic in books and reading books and actually going to each different library or different aisles, like and trying to find different books to try and like find a reference. That was prior
Yep,
internet. That was
yep.
normal. And trying to navigate where you find the best information to actually come up with a research and trying. It was fun.
Hmm.
Not very efficient,
Yeah.
but the way that we would observe the knowledge, it was very different the way that we observe today. So now going back to your question, and uh, the internet came, and that was like an evolution on how easy we could get access. So that was a time that I was pro technology. We need to move faster on technology.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then if we fast forward like years after, there was like, like the internet 2.0, there was like everything around our house, like cars, schools, everything, healthcare. A lot changed after the internet and the communication, how the globalized world became uh, connected. So now, if like, a couple of decades later, and in between 2010, 2015, 15 to 20, that was a decade that it changed so much that I start to say, I think we need less technology. Not that we need less technology, but we need to revisit the applicability of like the and the pace, because technology is not a replacement for human, is not a replacement for critical
Right.
thinking, is not a replacement for many human aspects. And as any other tool, if you don't use correctly, it can hurt you.
Exactly.
And I think we are like in this transition right now. So I had many back and forth. I'm actually summarizing and like this topic, but
Mhm.
I think yeah, there's a time that now I think it's important for my teams, for me to actually guide leadership, to guide humanization, to guide um to create an environment where it is encouraged to make mistakes,
Mhm.
um, and use the technology to as a tool to free up time for us to become creative again, to become, you know, to give us the time that we need to be better. Um, so there is not a specific time, Bill, but it's been many times that I've been between technology, like, oh, no, no, now we need to actually go a little bit more technology. Now we need to look a little bit of human. And I think we are now living a time to be more humanized.
I like it. Yeah, no, I completely resonate with the, tech goes too far, and people get their heads too deep into it. I grew up running in the streets and playing on the beach and running in the woods, and so I completely get that, that whole
Yeah.
childhood. And with my kids, I did a lot of stuff to get them outside into those environments and to model that with them. Um, and like I've always encouraged my teams, like, you know, to be people and be with their families and go do stuff. Don't
Yeah.
just be online all the time. It's not good for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because if we think about this, Bill, whatever brought us to this point is not what's going to take us to the next level,
right,
right?
right.
So we have to adapt. I was actually, I have like an 11 years old daughter.
Hmm.
I learned it quickly, one and done.
Yeah,
They are great, but it's a lot of work and responsibility. But it's like, okay, what's going to be the future for my 11 years old daughter?
sure. Yep.
Um, there was a time that I said, oh, if you know how to write code, you have like a career in tech. In, you know, in a few years, I feel different.
Right, right,
I'm not sure if I want her like to go that route, but um, I said like, what should I do? Like, I mean, like the access to the information and how can you navigate like what jobs you're gonna get in 10 years from now? And the way that uh, I think as a leader, I do have to, keep being very ethical, being very aware of the impact on society. I'm not
hmm,
actually working to make, of course, I work for make the companies that I work for successful, no questions about that.
yep,
But I don't do that at all costs. I do that with like social impact. I do that with responsibility on people and all that kind of awareness. And when I'm thinking about my daughter, I think about how are you going to become good with AI? Because I don't think it's something that you can avoid, but how are you going to be good with AI? Well, how do you become good on riding a bike? How do you become good playing a musical instrument? How do you become good in a sport? Well,
right, right,
you have to practice. You have to know the tool. You have to know like whatever you're doing. Same thing with AI. It's a tool. All right, good. So you can learn the basics of in school you go like to many different classes. So you're gonna go to like an AI class and you're gonna you have to have structure. And then if you see with those lens, okay, it's not that scary. You know,
right, right,
it's you know. Um, And then I think that's what we should do to be creating uh, the next great leaders. I think we are like in the world, we are lacking good leaders in general. And I think the next generation, if we actually look with those lens, we're gonna become we're gonna be forming really good leaders for the next generation. Um, we if we try to avoid, if we try to put make that as a big monster. Um, I think that's not the way. Let's
right,
embrace
right,
it. Let's embrace it. And let's give it a try. Let's see the strengths and the weakness, and and I think we will be better than what we are today.
right, right. Yeah, yeah. I'm a huge fan of learning as many skills as you possibly can.
Yeah,
Um, Part of the reason I'm doing this is because, excuse me, it forces me to learn new skills. Because we're doing all the work ourselves, right? So I've had to learn how to put in fences and a bunch of carpentry and some plumbing, and now I'm working on electrical, and understanding how to drive heavy equipment, because we got a skid steer, and it's like a small bulldozer, right? So there's all these new things I'm learning that actually help my thinking in general. And it's kind of like your dad doing the hardware side gave you entree into understanding context of how things work, and then you layered the software on top of that. I think the more different skills that we have, the better we are at problem solving, because we abstract things together. We're like, oh, that problem is kind of like this other problem that I solved in the past, right?
Yeah,
um
yeah. You make the connections,
yes.
like in the different skills that you acquire, and then say, oh, this is actually similar to that. So I know how to
Yeah.
actually react on this situation,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
which is a challenging, like if you're hiring like junior engineers these days.
Hmm.
Uh, it's been for a while, but if you ask me, like, what is one skill that you think that's going to be super, super important um, today for the next 5, 10 years?
Hmm.
I think we are going to full circle, because what my parents used to say is that, like, you should not just take everything that you hear or read as the truth.
Right. Right.
Ask why. Critical thinking.
Yes.
Critical
Yes.
thinking. So
Yep.
if you want to be successful, regardless of which wave of technology we are living, critical
Yep.
thinking is a good one to take with you,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
doesn't matter the age we are living, that is one. And Alberto, what do you mean about critical thinking? Don't trust. I mean, sorry, let me take that back. Trust but verify.
Yeah.
Ask
Yeah. A
why.
lot. Yeah.
Ask why.
Yeah.
And try to understand the logic behind it. I
Yep.
was very curious back in the day with my dad. Dad, why would this work like this? Why only 10 numbers, not 20 numbers on the caller ID? Why cannot be like more? Why can be less? Why? So when your kids are asking why, don't shut them down.
Right.
A-
Yes. Yes.
Answer those questions. I know sometimes it's like a pain in the neck to answer like the zillion questions that they may be asking. And I'm saying that out loud so I can hear myself as well and be better as a dad. Um, if someone in your team is asking why, that is the kind of people you want in your team. That will make you to become a good leader.
Yes. Yes.
So create the environment where people feel comfortable or asking why. That's good leadership right there.
Right. Yeah.
That,
I love that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's what
Yeah.
I try to do is create, like, don't be afraid to ask. There's no stupid question. You know what
Right.
stupid question is? Not asking. And of
Yeah.
course, today you have many thirsts of information. You have AI in so many shape or form. You can. I'm not saying that you should be asking people all the time, but ask AI and then
Hmm.
validate that. Don't take that that is the absolutely true answer, but use
Right.
that as a
Yes.
data point. Then you talk with people with more experience. You talk with your peers. You talk with people in your team. You talk with your uh, uh, 360 around you,
Right.
and
Right.
that will make you to have like a very solid understanding about the topic that you're talking about, and that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna help you to do better, your company to do better, your team to do better. You do better at home. That's how I think. Like that's what I think about critical thinking in today's
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. It's a funny thing. I grew up asking a lot of questions, and I also I really noticed I noticed things that didn't fit the standard narrative. Um, like my mom's a journalist, and so growing up, when I started researching things, she always said, "Well, go, look for other kinds of information, right?" And so I, I just started noticing things that didn't match what people said, and that gave me a much better understanding of the world. Um, and it's I'm always looking for outlier data. It's stuff on the ends of the bell curve, right? Because it shows me what's possible, but it also shows me where people who believe they understand the truth, um, they're mistaken because they stop being curious.
Ah,
Yeah. And um, I've told this story before. When I was at Google, the problem that they hired me to solve um, was how do you notify developers they're using your APIs that you're going to make a change to the API? Pretty simple problem, right? And a lot of companies have solved that problem. Google wasn't solving that problem. And when I went in, I started asking people about, like, how come we don't email developers? And the people kept telling me, oh, well, we can't because it violates the privacy
hmm.
requirements, and it's not legal, and we technically can't put that data together. And I was like, that's really a weird answer because everybody else does it. Like, what's special about you? And I I kept talking to people and talking to people and talking to people until I found these two guys who actually had built all the tech and had everything running to do that. But everybody had forgotten about them. Their product manager had left, and everybody had forgotten how this stuff was going, and so people just assumed you couldn't do it. And I was just amazed that they didn't look to see what LinkedIn and Facebook, Instagram, Meta, all those guys, plus every other company with APIs was doing. And because I've been working with APIs, I'd been getting those kinds of emails. I knew it was possible, right? But it was so funny that these people were stuck in you can't do it, right? And they weren't doing the research. I was like, wow, you got to be more curious than that, you know? Like, expand your vision.
I love when someone says, "Oh, this is actually you can't do this. This is too hard to-"
Yeah.
I will tell you that's actually giving me more energy to actually do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Why not? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the best feelings that I think for humans to feel is achievement. So
Someone
I was
says,
about to
yeah.
share like a quick story. I was about to share a quick story. Um, uh, right now, I'm working as the CTO at HireView,
Hmm.
and uh, I'm really passionate about the mission of HireView. Like I'm the kind of person that love to work for companies that have a purpose. And
Sure.
HireView is another company that has a really good purpose, and which is connecting people to opportunities. Okay, what
Hmm.
does that mean? Uh, Especially in today's world where there's a lot of technology, AI, and all that kind of stuff, how do you find a meaningful job for people? And we have been always looking, when you're hiring someone, you're looking at on the back mirror, on the rear mirror, sorry, what did you do? Tell me your experience. What you have done? Tell me like in a situation where you have done this or X, Y, and Z. I you have been to interviews, you probably interview people like based on what they have done.
Right. Right.
Now, imagine a world where you look forward. And I
Right.
asked
Yep.
Bill about what can you do?
Sure.
And that's a trick question because you can do so many things.
Right.
And probably you don't even know how your potential. You have an idea about your potential, but you don't know everything. So now think about this, about all the different types of jobs: a cashier, a teller, a driver, like all the different types of jobs.
Right. Right.
Imagine a world where we're going to be interviewing people based on the potential and what they can do. So that was the mission that when I heard about HireVue and that was the position, I said, damn it, that is it's a challenge. That is a
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
That's a change in how we see things. I said,
Right.
I want that one. I want to be part of that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do I have all the answers? No, but I want to like the curiosity, the critical thinking. Like I want to be part of that. And so here I am, CTO at HireVue, every
Nice.
day working on solving this problem that can really change people's lives, that can really impact society. Because imagine if we can make a improvement 1%, 2% of world's population on getting a job, that they are hired based on their potential, that they're not
Right.
worried
Right.
about like they're working because they are passionate about that, you know?
Right.
I did have jobs in my life where okay, that was a job, but I learned how to find jobs that I'm really doing what I'm passionate about.
Right.
And
Right.
we hear about those things when you're a kid, like from your grandparents or like from your parents. You have to work on what you really love. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know that. I mean, it's very few people that know that when they're very young.
Right. Right.
So I think uh, the achievement that we were talking a couple of minutes ago,
Mm-hmm.
getting
Mm-hmm.
challenged about something, and you have to keep renewing that throughout your career. And I think
Yes.
we as leaders, we have to be. How many times, Bill, have you hired someone that, or you faced in a situation to hire someone that is that this person has a lot of potential, and you gave the opportunity to that person,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that person turns out to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't that give you like the feeling of achievement?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Uh, and what did you have to do? You had to trust, you had to identify the potential, you had to do like many things that are even harder to measure, right?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it gives like you the achievement. And maybe there's a number of stories that you probably could share that you even became friends of
Yeah.
that person.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So
it's
yeah, that's
it's
yeah. Go ahead.
interesting. You actually got me thinking. I've I've mostly tried to interview for potential, um, rather than um, skills.
Checking boxes.
Yeah, because so here's so the first team that I built um, was in the late '90s, and it was at a startup, and um, we were using a technology, a programming language that was super rare. It was proprietary, um, and super powerful, worked amazingly well, was not open source, and not many people know how to use it. And so there was no way I was going to interview somebody and they were going to know the language, right? So I had to instead, what I wanted to know is do you understand any programming fundamentals at all? And what kind of challenges have you had to go through that where you had to learn a bunch of stuff? Like I really wanted to hear their struggle stories because my hypothesis was that if they knew how to struggle in one context, that they could do the struggle of learning a new programming language. and most of the time that worked out pretty well. And one of the people that I hired, the reason that I hired him was because he was so number one, he'd had a lot of struggle that he'd made it through, but he was in the interview. He said, "Look, give me 2 weeks. If I can't be productive in 2 weeks learning this programming language from scratch, I'll quit." And he had so much confidence in himself that I was like, "Okay." By the way, this guy's a high school dropout. But he was self-taught. He knew other programming languages. He dropped out of high school because it wasn't helping him. It wasn't helping his life. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I will take the risk. And he became, I think, my most prolific developer. You know, wrote more code, wrote really good code, figured out how to get stuff to happen that people said we couldn't do. You know, and he's still super successful today. So yeah,
That's a great story, and that's what attracted me to this new challenge.
yeah,
I still love puzzles. I started my
right,
career as like a developer, but I still love puzzles. But I think like the puzzles now, uh, well, the challenge now. That's why I'm like more like on the people side now,
yep,
these days, connecting with where we start the conversation is identifying the potential in this new generation and extending the hand and exploring, giving the opportunity for that potential
right,
and stimulating the critical thinking, because the technology we have it in a good shape right now. We can do so much with the technology we have now.
right, right,
But if we lose the human aspect of using that technology, I think we as a society, we're going to actually walk backwards.
oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yep,
and that's why I think the investment now needs to shift a bit to take care of people
right,
so they
right,
know how to use the technology in the right way. So we can actually keep evolving, not going the opposite direction.
right, right.
It's almost a very philosophical conversation right
No,
now,
no, I
but
think
it's very
100% you're
profound
right.
and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's
And I wish the people that are listening to us really reflect on this,
right, right,
because the more we have the investment on the people, humanization to use the technology that we got up to this point, we're gonna go like absolutely to a much better place.
right, right. Um, Accidentally, I've learned a bunch about psychology, and helping people. Um, this is maybe a little bit meta, but getting people um, to understand where their own heads get in the way of their career advancement. Um, and it seems like, because that seems to be the biggest friction point, is that people's beliefs about themselves, it, either A, free them up to do whatever, right? Or self-limiting beliefs stop them from advancement. And it's like those folks at Google that said that we couldn't email software developers, right? They had a stack of self-limiting beliefs that were not my self-limiting beliefs, right? And so when they kept saying we can't do it, I knew other people were doing it, and I had a different belief stack, and so I kept working until I found a way to solve the problem there. Um, and I think what you're talking about, a lot of that, and before I started working on um, this podcast series, I actually spent a bunch of time working with my partner around teen mental health. And there's a lot of struggle that happens for people because of their beliefs. And I've been coaching people on leadership and career advancement for a dozen years now. And the thing that 100% of the people bang into, that's a problem, that's their primary friction point, is their beliefs. They're like, oh, I can't do that, or the system works this way, but it doesn't, right? And so I think, yeah, being able to get inside people's heads in a way that's beneficial for them, I think that's such a critical angle, and almost nobody talks about it in a way that's uh, pragmatic and behavioral. Like Simon Sinek, I love his idea of start with why and leaders eat last. The challenge is, how do you get down to the nitty gritty of what's your day to day behavior to turn those philosophical perspectives into actions, right? Now you have an unconscious competency because you already know that you want to be mission driven, right? So you just do it, right? And you've probably been like that for a while. It probably did not start 3 days ago,
No.
right? And so then the challenge becomes, how do you teach somebody else to be comfortable thinking that way, um, in a way that they can then replicate your success, rather than, because right now what happens is people, they hear this, and the friction for them is, how do I go do that, you know um, and and I think part of the challenge you're talking about in the humanization is building repeatable systems for people, so they can say, oh, wait a minute, Alberto's doing this mission driven stuff to get himself to that place where he can recognize the mission and say, yes, I can operate there. These are all the little tiny steps that he's taken, starting when he was 10 years old and he was building soccer teams. And because your mission when you were 10 was to be able to play soccer and to put a team together so you could do that, right? So
Yeah, yeah, putting like several teams together.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think Bill, I completely agree with everything, and there's a few things that come to my mind, but uh there is this perception that you have to make things right at first. I think it's I think there's like this, you have to do right at first and as quickly as possible, and I because things are moving too fast, we need this product by tomorrow, and then it has to be done quickly and right, and it's it, maybe there's like some exceptions, but that's not the norm.
Right,
You will
right,
not build a great product overnight. You
right,
will not build a great career without making mistakes. You will not be a great leader or like a great individual contributor or like anyone, a good person, without making mistakes.
right,
Even the
right,
best leaders in the whole history, if you think about the scientists, like if you think about Einstein, how many times he actually made mistakes to get where he was,
right, right.
to get, and then but there's a perception that today you have to be right at first, and
Hmm.
and I think we grew up with some sort of like more and more like in the past decade or two, and I think that is a limited factor because
Right,
people don't want to try, because they don't want to make mistakes, because if you make a mistake, that's going to slow you down, and then and my point is not necessarily.
Right.
Many
Right.
times a
Exactly.
mistake is a time for you to actually look where you're going.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you learn.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and save your time up front. But so there was a recent situation at work. We are trying to do this transformation of the entire platform that currently runs in like very old versions of Windows, and we
Mm,
need to make that a FedRAMP compliant application. And in order to check out the boxes, there's so many challenges with the current architecture. We have to modernize that architecture. But in order to modernize that architecture to be more efficient, secure, yada, yada, yada,
hmm.
it is a lot of work, very complex. There's so many aspects of it.
Right.
And and the timeline to do that is very, very, very challenging. And I'm dealing with technology and I'm new to this FedRAMP world. There's so many new things for me and for many team members. And I said, team, let's take a moment to breathe here, because what I was hearing was like, we cannot do this in this time frame. There's this and there's that. There's this that 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 that. That. Said, let's let's get this big elephant here and let's put on the table here and let's analyze before we touch it. Let's
Hmm.
see. And we started in April with the deadline of January. And we're leaving
Nice.
this right now. Week after week, I heard we cannot do this. We cannot do this. And then I'm saying like, calm. Let's keep it calm. You know, like that t-shirt and
Yep.
stickers
Yep.
that keep it calm. And guess what, Bill? We are like on track. It's a very challenging thing,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
we are on track to deliver, and we will deliver this.
Nice.
We will. But my job as a leader, it was to get inside each one's person's head
Yes.
and find what I call the connection point. I will need to step a few steps your direction until I connect with what's inside your head, and I need for you to trust me and come a few steps forward, and then we hold our hands. Is this technical piece that is your tech? Okay, let's try to understand what this technical piece is. This like a compliance piece? Is this like a fear? It's literally fear.
Right. Oh yeah.
We
Yeah.
humans, because we're talking about a destination that we haven't been there before.
Right. Right.
So it is okay to have fear, but let's talk about that and let's find that connection point. So for me, and I'm very critical about my own leadership because I'm also a human. I also have emotions and I also have fears.
Right. Right.
And I'm not afraid to talk about those fears with my peers, with my teams, and to say that yes, I'm being aggressive or uh, 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 I'm being wrong, and finding those connection points. What I get back is a united team that believe on the North Star. And if when we win, we all win. If we fail, we all fail. Um, and that's how I like to lead my teams. And
I like it.
it connects with that feeling. Oh, I dream about achieving this thing.
Right.
It's gonna
Right.
be like a check that I don't have, and will give that feeling of winning, as I like to say, as a one team, one heart. I really mean it, and it goes back to like organizing soccer teams back in the day. It's the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
It's the same feeling. It's
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah.
older now with a different in a different game.
Different game. Yeah. You know, as you're talking about this and you're talking about failure, you know, um, Ayrton Senna didn't win every race that he entered. You know,
No,
he 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 was really good, and you know, he started off racing go-karts, as I recall. And so,
That's exactly right.
yeah. And so you learn, you're learning, you're figuring it out, you're learning how to be better, you're advancing your
Yeah.
sport. Yeah. You know,
I, I will. I know we're almost at the time here, and I will share like this last story from Ayrton Senna, so it connects everything that we discussed
oh, beautiful. Awesome. I love it.
in this version. So there's an episode, and you can Google that, and you can find in YouTube. He was really good. He became really good on uh, on when it was raining.
Yep.
So at that particular race, he didn't have the best car. Like that was the time the McLaren wasn't as good. So there was Michael Schumacher coming up on Benetton.
Hmm.
There was like the Williams coming as like the new cars. I think it was this in 1993, if I'm not mistaken. So Ayrton Senna, he was on the fifth on the grid. Um, it was a terrible weekend so far for him. The car wasn't adjusted correctly. Everything, like many things going wrong. And I think it was the team lead at the time. I think it was Nick Lauda or someone like that. I don't remember the names,
Hmm.
but it doesn't matter. The team lead of McLaren at the time said, Ayrton Senna, if you win this race, because Ayrton Senna was saying that he would win. If you win this race, this car is yours at the end of this race. I said, like, wait, what? I'm gonna get the MEP4? I said, yes, you would. I said, damn it. But he's on the fifth in the grid. So as the race starts, he actually fell to the sixth place. Before the end of the first lap, he was the first.
Oh, nice.
They say that that was, to today's days, the best first lap in history of F1.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
He ended up winning the race. He ended up actually winning the car. And apologies if I'm mixing the story. I'm paraphrasing the
Yeah. Yeah.
story that
Yeah.
is in my head of like that leadership. But uh, the determination, the commitment, the challenge, the inspiration. There's
Hmm.
so many great adjectives in inspiration about this that we face in our day-to-day challenge that we face. And he got the car. He ended up having that terrible accident in May 1st, 1994. And Lewis Hamilton, um, a recent driver, like the guy that I think he won 7 times the world champion.
Hmm.
Uh, he ended up driving this car that Ayrton Senna actually
Oh,
won.
wow.
There's a whole episode these days about Lewis Hamilton driving Ayrton Senna car.
Nice.
And the funny part is Lewis Hamilton, after driving this car
Yeah.
in today's days, he asks like, how did he do it? How did he drive like this big shift V12, like 1200 horsepower thing? And like, the guy was crazy.
Right. Right.
Anyways, all that to say is that the, there's nothing impossible, but it requires hard work. It requires like
Yep.
courage, and and I think leadership. This is it. Find someone that inspires you. Find something
Hmm.
that inspires you, and take the time to think, reflect. It's not only about speed next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing,
Right,
next thing,
right.
next thing. It's I think we need to. I don't think we need to go faster. I think we need to go slower
Yeah,
and reflect on the technology that is there and become creative again.
I like it. Yeah, yeah. The I think that, to your point, the human aspect of all this stuff is so underappreciated right now. And I think, yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we really need to kind of take a step back and make people front and center and figure out.
It's happening. It's happening.
Good.
One thing to reflect. This OpenAI, what was it? The windsurf AI team that they didn't buy the technology.
Hmm.
They bought the people. They bought the team.
Right. Well, yeah,
So
yeah,
uh, wait a minute. Like, what is happening? Is like before, for like the past 2 decades, it was buying companies and buying the technology. Now here's what I would say. Think about it. You know, I think leaders and companies, they are realizing that the technology now can be more rapidly built if you have the right team and the right leadership in place.
exactly.
We're
Yep.
going full circle.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. This has been
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.